Don't be a lemon, be a rosebud. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this special Saturday edition of The Game Changer. I am indeed your host with the most, Nate the Effing Great. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at RealEffingGame. Give us a like on our Facebook fan page, as well as leave your comments, your questions. Let us know what you want us to talk about in the comment section below, whether it's on YouTube or right here on Spreaker.com. All right, quite a bit to talk about in WWE. Well, actually, I wouldn't say WWE. It's actually in wrestling, actually. And I've already talked about how June is going to be just absolutely insane. And by this time next week, it'll just start off being absolutely crazy. But let's not waste any time. Let's talk about this week's wrestling-related news. So, Raw. This was kind of a thing. It's one of those situations where, again, Raw is struggling to keep everybody's attention going for 3 full hours. It's not easy to do, to say the least. But we still had some positives to it. Let's just get this out of the way. One of the biggest negatives from the show was the Sami Zayn segment, which he featured Bobby Lashley's quote-unquote sisters, which turned out to be 3 dudes. And this could have been more entertaining if Sami Zayn would have brought his Bobby Lashley's actual sisters into this, and then maybe Sami Zayn would just, cut him off and just say, "Oh no, that's not how you really feel. You've been feared. You've been pushed to the limit by Lashley. You've been having, Bobby Lashley basically, is like forcing them to say these things, and they need to express, what their true thing was." It could have been something different, but no. Apparently, they have made this into one of the 4 horsemen of worst Raw segments ever. Definitely tying it in with the Old Day segment that the club did, Bayley's This Is Your Life, and I'm trying to remember what the last one was, but I know that they tied this one in, but I honestly said, there's no way that you can pass up the whole Katie Vick angle that happened. Oh, God. Just, please, no. No. So, yeah, that was one of those things that just did not need to happen. Of course, Bobby Lashley came out, joked around, and then he just beat the crap out of the quote-unquote sisters, and basically made Sami Zayn look like a fool. What the hell are people thinking? And a lot of people have definitely been saying that WWE creative, they need to just fire the people that come up with these stupid skits and just never come back to WWE. And this was not entertaining at all. You could definitely hear like a pin drop during this matchup. There were probably people getting up, going to concessions and using the bathroom. This was just absolutely a waste of time. Let's not also pass up the fact that Stephanie McMahon made her triumphant return to Raw. Basically, she interrupted Kurt Angle as he was about to announce the Women's Fatal 4-Way match for the Money in the Bank qualifier. So basically, Stephanie McMahon just spat in the face of her fellow ladies in wrestling. Great job, Stephanie. Good way to be a role model. And she's basically saying, I'm going to be the person in charge and moderating the contract signing between Ronda and Nia Jax. One good thing that came out of Stephanie's mouth all year, in all honesty. Roman Reigns came out and basically told Stephanie McMahon that, he deserves a rematch. Then we have Kevin Owens come out, and, he's just happy with, well, actually, this is really weird. He actually made a comment to Roman Reigns, and he actually said, "Thank you, Roman," because if he not attacked Jinder Mahal last week, then he wouldn't have gotten his opportunity in the Money in the Bank match, qualifying matchup. Then he wouldn't be involved in Money in the Bank, and he's just be all happy and ready until he did basically something that is just as bad as getting run over by a truck. That is putting his arm resting on Stephanie's shoulder, in which Stephanie, of course, gives him the looks. Owen's like, "Okay, I'll take my arm off," and Stephanie says, "Don't ever do that again." See, I know even better than to do that. And of course, what is Kevin Owens' punishment for putting his hands on the boss's daughter? Put him in a match with Roman Reigns, which a lot of people agree that's punishment enough. Roman and Kevin Owens had a bit of a decent back and forth matchup, and then Jinder Mahal got involved, and then Seth Rollins came in. They made it into a tag team matchup, and we see Roman and Seth come out victorious. And it's also announced later on in the show that Seth Rollins will take on Jinder Mahal for the IC title. This will be an interesting matchup. I'm not going to say that's going to be a bad matchup, but I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here between Jinder and Seth Rollins. I think that Jinder is going to have one of those matches that's going to make his career next to his match with AJ last November. Now, there was actually one fan that I got into a little bit of a dispute about. He basically talked about how, Roman Reigns, he's doing really good. He wrestled for an hour. Don't belittle him. And I made the comment that, yeah, he did that, but at the same time, he's no Iron Man like Seth Rollins, because Rollins continued on from one match to another. Roman Reigns went from a singles match to a tag team match where he basically could just, be on the corner just resting. So I don't think that, you can compare Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns to that. And some people might say, well, he did survive an hour. Okay. But it's not the same circumstance. He got a little bit of a break, so it doesn't really help his case that much. It was also later announced that it would be Jinder Mahal versus Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank. Oh, God help me. I am very eager to hear some of the chants that are going to be thrown at these two men in Chicago, because they are going to be eaten alive. And I am hoping this actually does happen, and maybe this will get the attention of some of the WWE executives. But if I have to lead this chant, then I'll do it. I could honestly see somebody doing this deal where they basically say, both these guys suck. Both these guys suck. It just seems like it's going to be one of those things where they're trying to get Roman a little bit of sympathy after what's going on with him and Brock. Don't do it this way. He's no Daniel Bryan. He's not going to get the sympathy like Daniel Bryan did. Make him the first Roman Reigns. Just don't stop doing this whole deal where you're forcing him down our throats. And also, I'm going to say this. Ever since he had his feud with Brock, he's gotten worse in the ring. That's just something I've noticed. It just seems like, everything that he did from his WWE title matches with AJ Styles to his, IC title run, he had some pretty stellar matches. And so even some of the worst ones, you can at least admit, yeah, he did more moves than just, Superman punch, spear, drive-by kick, that kind of deal, where it's only like maybe 5 moves. I mean, it just seems like he's turning into John Cena, and that's not going to help him. So I want to see him go back to the moves where he's actually doing some wrestling in the ring, not just doing these things just because it's supposed to be flashy, it's supposed to get people off their feet. I want to see Roman Reigns actually wrestle. Bring back the Roman Reigns that took AJ Styles to the limits a couple years ago. Bring back the Roman Reigns who had a pretty good matchup between him and John Cena at No Mercy. Bring that Roman, and people will really start to respect him. And also, I would probably have him turn heel. They could really do this at Money in the Bank, where they could do like a double turn where Roman is supposedly the face and Jinder's the heel in this. They could honestly do it to where Roman Reigns beats the ever-living hell out of Jinder Mahal, and literally he just says, I don't care what you people think, I'm going to do things my way. And Jinder, maybe out of just some act of God or something else, where he basically just says, after that beating, and while the doctors were basically just like doctors were fixing him up, he basically had some time to think, and he basically realized, all the things that he had done wrong, all the things he did, and, he basically just sympathizes with the fans. He says, I need to represent my people better. I'm going to start doing that tonight. And you start building him up as a great star. And in all honesty, if they could build him up as a pretty good babyface, then he could be a top level guy, and he could be, Universal Champion. Honestly, I think it'd be worthwhile to do. It's one of those things where you build him up. Maybe they have a little joke thing with him and Slater, and maybe in a deal with Drew where they had like the 3MB reunion. But obviously Drew is a heel, so maybe it could be one of those things like they did with the Club, AJ, and Finn Balor, where you see Slater and Jinder, they're saying like, hey, 3MB reunion, and Drew just walks off like, yeah, right, whatever. So it's one of those things that could happen, but we'll see. I would actually kind of like to see that, to be fair. All right, we had Ember Moon versus Alexa Bliss, which was a pretty good matchup. Ember Moon won with the Eclipse, and it was a good preview for what we could see at Money in the Bank. I am looking forward to seeing these two women take each other to the limit, and with the ladder involved, it's going to be absolutely amazing. Baron Corbin defeated No Way Jose. Again, still a little bit disappointed about the fact that Baron Corbin's not involved in Money in the Bank, but you know what? It's okay. I'm not salty about it. Maybe they'll give Baron Corbin a little bit of a run in the Universal title picture as time goes on. But right now, build up Baron Corbin again, make him a great star, and he'll do great. So, let's talk about this, shall we? The B Team, quite possibly one of the best booking opportunities that they have actually done. Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas are entertaining. They have this homemade merch where literally you could save so much money on, laser jet deals, and just have every single one of those shirts just colored with markers and stuff like that. It's just so funny. And the fact that these guys are making it seem like, oh, we're undefeated since being known as the B Team. They had a match with Breezango in which they won again. And it's just, I love it. It's just really amazing how well these guys are just going with the fans, and people are reacting to them well. They could be on their way to defeating Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy for the tag team titles. It could happen. And would it be a great move? Honestly, yeah. I think it would be great. And then they could also do a deal where, they split up Bray and Matt. Maybe the Lake of Reincarnation made a mistake with Bray Wyatt and he goes back to being evil or something like that. Who knows? Or maybe it's just one of those things where they do a double turn again. They have the B Team be the face, and maybe Matt and Bray become heels. Who knows? But the B Team is just so entertaining. They are just absolutely, they're really getting better in the ring. It just feels like the sky is the limit for them. It's going to be just great to see that. We had the Raw Women's Championship contract signing between Nia Jax and Ronda Rousey. Honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing how this match turns out. This was very well done. And one of the reasons why it was well done was because of Stephanie. And I know that's almost speaking blasphemy, but at the same time, she did a really good job of stirring the pot, where basically she made it seem like Ronda said, oh, well, I could put you in one submission move and you would tap out right away. And then Nia basically is just like, there's no way you would lock me in it. Just a great setup for these two. And Ronda has this line that I really loved, where she basically said, yeah, at Money in the Bank, I'm going to take your title, but I'm also going to take your arm. Honest to God, if she does this gimmick where she just seemingly rips off the arms of her opponents and has them like on display in like a trophy room, that would be amazing. That's like some Lucha Underground King Cuerno shit right there. That would actually be really entertaining. And honestly, there's a lot that they can go with this, because they're still doing the deal between Stephanie and Ronda, and Stephanie doesn't want to see Ronda succeed. She wants Ronda to fail. So for Ronda to fail at Money in the Bank, it could literally be one of those things like they did at Survivor Series 1998, where it's like, oh, well, Ronda's going to win. But no, Nia actually wins because of Stephanie McMahon. And Ronda knows that Stephanie does not want her to succeed, so it is basically like a Stone Cold deal where she goes through everybody on the women's roster. She, takes on Mickey. She takes on Alexa. They build this up, and they actually give Ronda some good matches against some pretty good opponents, and they build up for a rematch between Ronda and Nia at SummerSlam. And again, you can just have a great story that could be told there. Now Nia is like the handpicked champion of Stephanie McMahon, and Ronda is basically, again, the rebel thing. Yeah, it's basically a copy and paste of Stone Cold Steve Austin, but they're doing it with a woman, and honestly, Ronda's the perfect fit for this. And they could even build it up even more when they have maybe somebody cash in on Ronda. Maybe Ember Moon cashes in, or maybe they have a matchup between the two of them where it's all about respect. Who knows? I just really like where this is going with Nia and Ronda. A lot of people are still kind of against it, but I think if they turn Nia heel, it's going to be one of those feuds that's going to be worth the watch. So I'm very interested in seeing how it goes. I'm very looking forward to see what happens. Dolph Ziggler picks up a victory for the first time against Chad Gable. Dolph and Drew had a segment with Chad in the background where basically Chad Gable says that he could basically beat one of them. And somebody actually said that Dolph Ziggler versus Chad Gable in just a pure wrestling match would be absolutely amazing. And that would actually be kind of cool. Maybe they could make that a gimmick deal, and it would just be kind of one of those things where Chad just out-wrestles Dolph Ziggler. So, where is this going, though? Why are Drew and Dolph still going after Chad Gable? In all honesty, I could really see this happening, and this would actually be kind of cool. I'm hoping that we get a reunited American Alpha in this. And there's a way to make this work, because you can have Jason Jordan still be heelish. He's still trying to impress, daddykins. And Chad Gable is just going out there, being the best and proving that he is, wrestling-wise, he is superior. And having the two of them, reunite, and they're still like best buddies. And then, of course, Jason Jordan has this kind of jealousy deal. It seems like they're going to be breaking up, and of course on bad terms. But maybe they're the ones that defeat Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. So now the two of them have to be a team for longer. And basically it's just a one-upsmanship where, Chad Gable, he does maybe a belly or a German suplex, and then Jason Jordan tags himself in, and he's like, oh, you think you can do that good? Okay, well, I can do it better. He does, of course, his belly or his suplex. It's basically just two guys one-upping each other, but putting on really good matches with really good opponents. And, of course, there's moments where, Kurt Angle's impressed more with Chad Gable, or he's impressed more with Jason Jordan. It's kind of like they're both trying to vie for Kurt Angle's attention and basically say, hey, no, I'm better, no, I'm better, no, I'm better. Just doing something like that, it would just be absolutely amazing. I would really love to see that. It would just be awesome. Let this happen, please, by all means. We had that Fatal 4-Way Money in the Bank qualifying matchup in which Natty defeated Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan, and Dana Brooke. How in the hell is it that Riot Squad is still a thing? I just don't get it. I don't get it. They were the knockoff of Absolution, and somehow Absolution is dead in the water on Smackdown, which it really should not be. Honestly, if they paired up Absolution with the Iconic Duo, that would actually be really good, because they can start having 4 stars all competing against each other. They want to take over the SmackDown women's division. They want to do so much more, and I think that would actually be amazing. There could even be a moment where Sonya and Mandy, they're backstage, and Paige comes up to them and says, you don't know what you're getting yourself into with the Iconic Duo. Be careful. And then Sonya and Mandy can just look at her, then look at each other, and then look at her and be like, Absolution died, remember? You're not the boss of us anymore. So it's kind of one of those things where maybe Paige brings in Tough Love. I think that'd be absolutely amazing. But getting back to the point, like I said, Natty gets involved, and she is going to be in the Women's Money in the Bank matchup, and we actually had another qualifier and another winner that I will go into in just a bit. We had Bobby Roode taking on Elias in a very stellar matchup. This was the best one out of all their matches. I will not lie about that. But I think that now they can move on. They can have Bobby Roode take on some other people. Honestly, I am hoping that Bobby Roode wins at Money in the Bank. I want him to hold the briefcase for as long as he can, cash in, turn heel, and that would just be absolutely awesome. Have Bobby Roode be the heel champion that we want. He was great in NXT, but he would just be so much better on the main roster as the main champion. Honestly, I would really love to see him cash in on the WWE champion, whether it's AJ Styles, whether it's Shinsuke Nakamura, whether it's Samoa Joe, whoever that might be. Because I don't know what the implications are for Money in the Bank, whether they can, cash it in on another brand's championship or they have to stick to their own brand. But I'm hoping it's, they can choose which brand they can go to. Honestly, it'd be kind of cool. Just have, certain Raws and certain Smackdowns where the Money in the Bank holder just comes in and they're just teasing the fact that they're going to cash in, just teasing it. It would just be absolutely amazing. But in this pair-off, Elias picked up the victory over Bobby Roode, which might also be the indicator that Bobby is probably going to win because he's on this losing streak right now. But you never know. There's a lot of people that are heavily rumoring that The Miz is going to win. But I'll get into that a little bit later when I talk about SmackDown. And then, of course, we had the main event, which was Braun Strowman versus Finn Balor in a really good matchup between the two of them. Honestly, Braun Strowman just continues to impress day after day after day and week after week. Finn Balor, he put up a hell of a fight. He really did. And a lot of people might say, Braun Strowman buried Finn Balor. I don't see that. I think that Finn Balor, he put on a really good fight, and he took Braun Strowman to a different level. It's just one of those things where I thought to myself, oh, wow, this is actually really good. But, of course, Braun Strowman being too strong, and he just took down Finn Balor with a power slam for the 1-2-3. Braun Strowman picks up the victory. He is definitely going to be heavily favored as the favorite to win the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. But I also want to talk about this because, God help me, this was possibly the best and funniest moment of the night. Before the matchup even started or even got announced officially, Stephanie McMahon had this basket of fruit, and Finn and Braun, they come in and it's we kind of want Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre in a rematch. Stephanie says, I can't really give it to you. But, would you like some fruit? Finn's like, I'm good. And Braun's just like, sure, why not? He just grabs an apple. And we see basically Stephanie say, okay, well, I'm going to announce a matchup between Finn Balor and Braun Strowman. And both of them kind of look at each other. They both are kind of smiling. And then Braun Strowman does probably the best thing that I could have ever expected. And that was he takes the apple and he just crushes it. And it's not even one of those things where it just turned just I'm trying to think of the right way to picture this with words. Where it just looks like crumpled up candy wrap. No, it literally looks like it just explodes in his hand, and then he just opens his hands and lets the pieces of the apple just fall. And then Finn Balor just has this face of just oh shit, I'm gonna die tonight. Literally the best moment on Raw. I hate seeing Finn Balor get beat up, but that face that he made just made everything just so worthwhile. It was just absolutely awesome. So that was the highlight for Monday Night Raw, in my opinion. It was great. All right, so we go into SmackDown. We had a segment with Miz, where he had the Miz TV segment with the New Day, basically trying to get to the bottom of who's going to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And we don't get that answer, but we do get the answer of who Miz faces off that night, and that was the one and only Big E Langston. So, this was a pretty good matchup. Honestly, Miz, Big E, they definitely do have a pretty good chemistry with each other. And I'm looking forward to the day that, Big E, Kofi, and Xavier Woods do kind of split up. I think that might happen sooner rather than later. But we'll see. But honestly, right now, having Big E do these singles matches is a great idea. Because then they can test the waters of, can we push him as a single star? Because it definitely seems like they want to have Kofi and Xavier as a tag team, and they want Big E to be the main guy. It could happen, but we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, matchup ends with The Miz hitting Big E with a skull-crushing finale for the win. And of course, we know that Miz is already in the Money in the Bank ladder match, so that's what it is. So, we had a women's Money in the Bank qualifier. We had Lana taking on Billie Kay, and to my surprise, Lana won. A highlight from this was actually at the beginning, where Aiden English just came out and sang out an introduction for Lana, and it was just amazing. It was awesome. I really loved that. And he even, oh my gosh, he pulled out a sign that said Lana Day on it. It was just, oh my gosh, it was amazing. I know that Lana is not exactly the best in the ring, but the fact that she's getting this kind of reaction from the fans, that's great. And it also probably has to do with the fact that she's paired up again with her hubby Rusev. There is another rumor also that they might be ending the Rusev Day deal. They might be breaking off Aiden English, and they'll have Lana and Rusev, just paired back up again. I could see that happening, but you got a really good money marker here with Rusev Day. I don't think that I would break it up. And plus, they just introduced Lana Day. I think it's something that they could do. Honestly, this would be a shock of the night for me. If they did this, if they had Lana win the women's Money in the Bank match, and if they had Rusev win the men's, can you just imagine that? Having a married couple on the same roster, and they're both holding briefcases. That would just, oh my gosh. That is one of those things that I kind of want now. I have my difference of opinions on it, but it's still one of those things where it's like, it would just be beautiful to see. I mean, can you imagine that with so many other couples? Maybe like Edge and Lita, if they were to have something like that. AJ Lee and Daniel Bryan. So many of these couples that could have, had briefcases together and basically have that power couple deal where Rusev is the WWE champion and Lana is the women's champion. There's just so much great, it's just such a great vibe there. Just absolutely awesome. I would really like to see that, actually. But I will get more into predictions in a few weeks when I have SoCal Val on the show. So we're going to move along. Andrade Cien Almas picked up a victory against another random jobber. Hit his hammerlock DDT for the win. I do feel like they're going to basically get into a deal where it's going to be Andrade Cien Almas versus Jeff Hardy for the U.S. title. I truly believe that's where this is going. And in all honesty, I think it'd be kind of cool. I think that the promos between Zelina Vega and Jeff would be really good. And I think the wrestling between Jeff and Andrade would be awesome. I am okay with the idea of Andrade being U.S. champion. I mean, he could cut so many great promos. Zelina Vega would just be holding onto that title like it was just her precious, like it's her purse, like it's just her prized possession. It would just be absolutely amazing. I really would love to see that. I think that would just be absolutely amazing. We had AJ and Shinsuke Nakamura, where they were going to announce what the title stipulation was going to be at Money in the Bank by virtue of Nakamura defeating AJ Styles last week in a non-title match. I was actually okay with them having a clear victory on a Smackdown. It does create a very interesting dynamic going into Money in the Bank, because you had AJ win at WrestleMania, you had two non-finishes or 2 draws, I should say, that nobody likes. But then they had a clear-cut winner where Nakamura basically outsmarts AJ Styles and beats him 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. Now it's one of those things where it's like, I have a victory over you. It's basically tied up in WWE, even though technically you can say that Nakamura has the one-up on AJ if you include Wrestle Kingdom. But they're probably not, so we'll just say it's tied up. At first, Nakamura made a choice of making it a pillow fight. This is one of those things where it's like, excuse me, okay, wait a minute. And then I kind of thought about it, where literally they could have like a lot of these, Japanese deals where they could maybe even have just like the deal where it's like, like pillow fight at the bottom, and maybe there's just like these giggly Japanese girls. Okay, maybe I'm being too racist, but it's just one of those things where I could see this being absolutely entertaining because it's Nakamura and AJ. But then Nakamura attacked AJ, beat him down, and then counted all the way up to 10, revealing that the stipulation is going to be a last man standing match. And I think it's a great stipulation. I am hoping that with this stipulation that AJ is smart and he actually wears a cup. But do I see that happening? Probably not. I could see Nakamura walking away with the title. But at the same time, just because Nakamura had a great run here with AJ does not mean that Nakamura could have a great run with somebody else. I mean, you look at how him and Jinder did, and their matches were not exactly, 5-star quality. But I'm looking forward to seeing this matchup go down. It's going to be an absolutely amazing matchup between the two of them. It's going to be physical. It could top Gargano versus Ciampa at NXT TakeOver Chicago 2. But I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. I will cast judgment on that later on. We get a bit of an interesting matchup. We get Gallows and Anderson versus the Usos, where basically Gallows and Anderson, they want a shot at the Bludgeon Brothers for the tag team titles, but the Usos say, well, actually they had some really good things. This was actually a really good promo segment between the two of them, where basically, Carl Anderson and Gallows, they talk about being the best. Usos reply by saying, you're not in Japan, you're in the Uso Penitentiary, you're in our yard. And Gallows and Anderson, of course, they reply by calling them a couple of nerds, and that, of course, starts the matchup. And this was a good matchup between Gallows, Anderson, and the Usos. I would love to see them compete more. In the end, Gallows and Anderson pick up a victory with the Magic Killer, and they are going to fight the Bludgeon Brothers at Money in the Bank. So I get my wish. I get Harper and Rowan versus Gallows and Anderson at Money in the Bank. This is going to be a good matchup. I'm going to be very invested in this matchup because it is a great team in Gallows and Anderson against a good team in Rowan and Harper. All gimmicks aside, this is going to be a really good matchup. I am looking forward to it. It's going to be absolutely amazing. We had Naomi versus Sonya Deville for actually I think SmackDown's final Money in the Bank qualifier, if I'm not mistaken. So Naomi defeats Sonya. She fills a spot in. Actually, no, there's one spot that's left. I blanked out. I actually did forget about this. There's going to be a last chance gauntlet matchup where a lot of the participants who had their chance before, they're going to get one more chance to fight to determine who's going to be the final Raw representative for the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And it looks to be really good. And what I'm hoping for this is that we get a little bit of a heated deal with Bayley and Sasha. Maybe we finally start getting the pieces put together of having a Sasha versus Bayley match at SummerSlam, or even next month, actually in July, for Extreme Rules. I'm I actually think that would be better. I think have a great matchup between Sasha and Bayley at Extreme Rules. Make it, Extreme Rules match. Maybe make it a tables match. Make it something very memorable. Make it something that is physical because we know they can go there. But yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty good matchup next week on Raw. Well, this upcoming week, I should say. But we'll have to wait and see. The last matchup here for SmackDown is Jeff Hardy versus Daniel Bryan, where the winner will face Samoa Joe next week. And that winner of that matchup will go on to fill in the final spot for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Great matchup between Jeff Hardy and Daniel Bryan. Again, would love to see these guys wrestle on, maybe a bigger stage, maybe for a WWE Championship. That would actually be really amazing. But in the end, Daniel Bryan did a lot of work on the leg and locked in a knee lock to force Jeff Hardy to tap out. So Daniel Bryan versus Samoa Joe is happening next week. I'm going to watch that. That matchup looks to be absolutely amazing. I love the idea of these two guys being technical specialists. I am looking forward to seeing either Samoa Joe possibly tap out or Daniel Bryan pass out. I know that seems kind of mean to say Daniel Bryan, but it's a matchup that it seems like nobody's going to lose. It's the fans are the real winners because we're going to see a Ring of Honor deal. We're seeing Samoa Joe versus Daniel Bryan in the WWE. How can you not be excited for that? That just possibly says a match of the year candidate if they plan this and do this right. But we'll see because I know it is also WWE. So SmackDown, I think, wins this week. They had some really good storylines that went on. They built up the matches for Money in the Bank pretty well. It's going to be an absolutely amazing matchup. Now, obviously, a lot of people are going to say that Miz is going to win. Here's the thing that I think is going to happen. If Daniel Bryan defeats Samoa Joe this upcoming Tuesday, I do not see the Miz winning. I could see them definitely going back and building up a feud between Miz and Daniel Bryan that actually culminates at SummerSlam, and maybe it has its ultimate conclusion at WrestleMania. I think that would actually be great. If Samoa Joe is victorious, I could see the Miz winning, because then they could definitely be teasing the fact that Daniel Bryan's going to challenge for the WWE Championship, and Miz cashes in on him, yada yada, But I could also see them doing a deal where Miz basically climbs the ladder, Daniel Bryan's stuck in a ladder or something like that. And it's literally one of those things like with Matt Hardy in his match versus Edge, or Chris Jericho with CM Punk, where they're basically they're just stuck, and they are just having to force to look up and see the winner just grab the briefcase right in front of them as an ultimate sign of disrespect. It would just be, I think it'd be absolutely crazy, but I think it'd be absolutely amazing. I'm looking forward to Money in the Bank. Bottom line, it's going to be an absolutely amazing show. Speaking of amazing shows, if you haven't gotten a chance yet, go check out the Kings of the Rings podcast. They just celebrated their 100th episode, where they talked a lot about how they all came together, how they created the podcast, how things have definitely evolved since all three of them have been together. And they even broke a huge announcement regarding their podcast that they kicked off the show with. But I am not going to reveal that. I will let you guys tune in to that announcement, because they deserve to tell you more than I. But I had King Ricky on last week, and it was absolutely amazing. And you can definitely expect the Kings of the Ring podcast to have more of a presence on this show than a lot of other people have before. So, like I said, it's an absolutely great show. I'm featured on there, and basically, it's almost like maybe like 2 minutes worth, but it's probably one of the best 2 minutes that you'll have to listen to, because I love talking to all three of them. They're really great guys. Ricky, Will, and Davey, if you listen to this, again, congratulations. And again, thank you for letting me be a part of your show. And I can't wait to listen to you guys on, on every single place that you guys are on, because it's just going to be it's just awesome just listening to you guys. They're entertaining. They're amazing. Just go listen to them. If you haven't gotten a chance to listen to them, go listen to one of their podcasts. It can be a random one. But I think if you want all three of them, you would have to tune into anything that's 33 or later, I believe, because that's when Ricky gets involved. So, that being said, I'm trying to think of some other things to talk about for this week in wrestling. Impact Wrestling is building up to their show called Under Pressure next week. So I'm wondering if their theme music is going to literally be, under pressure. Honest to God. I mean, WWE did Great Balls of Fire, and they had that as the theme music. I could see Impact doing that, where they're just showing random stars, put your pressure, pushing down on me, pushing down on you. I could see them doing that. Let's face it. A couple of the matches that are announced are Madison Rayne versus Tessa Blanchard. Some very interesting circumstances to where this got set up, but I think it's going to be a good match between the two of them. We've got, excuse me, I'm trying to think of who else was involved in this. We got Su Yung challenging for the Knockouts Championship. What they're doing with Allie is really good. I am very curious to see how well this plays out and what more they're going to do. Basically, Su Yung has been getting Allie's head. Rosemary was basically her best friend, and then Su Yung just decided to throw her in a casket and then burn her, which, oh gosh, that was absolutely amazing. And Allie, in this recent episode of Impact, basically just dons the jacket, dons the face paint of Rosemary, and there's this thing written on the mirror where it basically just says, B, don't let the darkness consume you. R. Whew. I think that it's a little late for that, Rosemary, but I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes down. And also we have the epic rematch between Austin Aries and Pentagon Jr. for the Impact Wrestling World Championship. I will say this without giving too many spoilers. I'm a little bit disappointed at what happens here, but you win some, you lose some. But also, speaking of Pentagon, I remembered before even coming out of the show that we get Lucha Underground in just a matter of almost, it's going to be at least a little over 2 weeks, but Lucha Underground's coming back. I'm a happy boy. And that's going to be a crazy week for me because I'll have the Lucha Underground going on that week. SoCal Val will be on that week. Incredibles 2 comes out that week. That'll also be that weekend will be NXT TakeOver Chicago 2, as well as Money in the Bank. That's going to be absolutely insane. The fact that I am remembering all of this is just mind-boggling and a little bit of amazing. But that being said, I think I got everything covered that I wanted to cover for this week in wrestling. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining me here, and I'm hoping you guys enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Be sure, again, to give me a follow on Twitter, give a like on Facebook, and be sure to leave your questions, comment below, as well as give us a like, favorite this, share it, do whatever you can to spread the word. The Game Changer is going to start taking the podcast wrestling world by storm, as well as many other locations, you guys. So thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye. Los Angeles, Portugal, contact 5-8.